creative planning and everything creative related always should be thought about at the stage of crafting your strategy. So after you know what your goal is, what you're trying to achieve with your digital advertising, regardless whether it's brand awareness or leads or purchases, you will have to be thinking about the funnel stage where people fall into the different stages of the funnel, basically to get a very good understanding who you will be targeting with your ads. And later on, think about the messaging and the creative that you'll be showing to them. So creative needs to always come at the stage of planning and crafting strategy. A lot of people feel that they forget about the creative. They're like preparing even targeting audiences or channels, budgets, account structures, etc. But at the end of the day, they're almost ready to go live with that, and then they start thinking about, well, maybe we need to have thought a little bit more about the creative. Is it well enough? Is it optimized well enough? Or they just leave very small time in their planning process for crafting a very customized creative. So definitely at the stage of planning, and also try to be very efficient with it. So don't underestimate it and like leave it for the last resort, basically.
Hello, hello. We are back online. I'm Terry, Chief Marketing Officer here at Hop Online. Today we're going to have a live with Miglena, who is a digital strategist here at Hop. Maggie, hello. Thank you for joining me.
Hi Terry, it's a pleasure to be here today, and hopefully we can get some great talking points about creative.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about that. The topic for today is performance creatives. The reason why we're talking about that is obviously it's closely connected to everything we do here at Hop, especially in my opinion with the AI developments in the recent months. For me, creative performance in general becomes more and more important. Everyone online talks about how AI will revolutionize paid media marketing, how it's helping us to evolve, do a lot more things. And among all of this chaos, I do believe that creatives are one of the differentiating factors for a lot of companies to be able to scale better and optimize their ROI. So, because you have been working with a lot of our clients on their creatives, you're one of the people in the company that has done the most creative reviews for our clients. I wanted to chat with you about this today, Maggie. And I hope I can extract from you all the knowledge you have on creatives and how to use them the right way to optimize ROI. With that being said, I have a few questions as usual that I've prepared and have them on my phone. First question for me is, do you think creative development is always important for paid performance? I just mentioned that for me, it's one of the key elements, but I wanted to hear your point of view on this topic.
Yeah, well, totally. Yes, and yes. It's totally crucial. And if I dare to say, especially for the platforms like the social network platforms and like even the Google placements that rely a lot on creatives like YouTube, PMax, one of the most recent ones, display, discovery, all of these are very heavily reliant on creative. So I would say that if you have ads that are not search ads and include any sort of creative, even if it's a small logo or a small image or whatever, yes, it's very crucial. And everybody out there needs to be following how the creative is performing and certain key metrics that I hope we'll get the chance to talk about in more detail. But yes, it's very crucial and very vital part. And I think people very often are underestimating it in terms of how important and what influence it has when people see your ads. So specifically for building your brand awareness, and even product awareness and understanding the product, all the ad elements are very, very important. I would maybe focus a lot more on the social platforms because they're the creative is king, as we always say. So it is the most important part there. People always notice first the creative and then any headlines, ad copy, etc. that in the ads. This is what grabs their attention. So I wouldn't like there is no way you continue to underestimate this. Yeah, it's just not feasible. So definitely for improving brand awareness, I mentioned it also, even conversion rates are very heavily influenced by the creatives you use. Of course, if you convey your message right and your creative and overall ad experience is great, people will be understanding your brand and product very well, and thus might convert faster on their journey to your product. So this is like one of the key things. So yeah, it's very vital to also prep well for creatives and then just execute them the right way for your channels.
Would you say they're a low hanging fruit for most let's say, small to medium sized companies? Or should they first focus on optimizing the campaigns and targeting audiences and all of these things? Or should they start from the creatives and then move to the more technical aspects of media management?
Well, I would say creative planning and everything creative related always should be thought about at the stage of crafting your strategy. So, after you know what your goal is, what you're trying to achieve with your digital advertising, regardless whether it's brand awareness or leads or purchases, you will have to be thinking about the funnel stage where people fall into the different stages of the funnel, basically to get a very good understanding who you will be targeting with your ads. And later on, think about the messaging and the creative that you'll be showing to them. So creative needs to always come at the stage of planning and crafting strategy. A lot of people feel that they forget about the creative. They're like preparing even targeting audiences or channels, budgets, account structures, etc. But at the end of the day, they're almost ready to go live with that, and then they start thinking about, well, maybe we need to have thought a little bit more about the creative. Is it well enough? Is it optimized well enough? Or they just leave very small time in their planning process for crafting a very customized creative. So definitely at the stage of planning. And yes, and also try to be very efficient with it, so don't underestimate it and like leave it for the last resort basically.
Yeah, sadly it happens way too often. That's why we're
Yes.
mentioning it. But yeah, I actually have a question because you mentioned obviously that this needs to be part of the planning process and people need to think about what type of creatives that they want to put out. Is there any framework that can help people to analyze whether they actually need better creatives? Like, how do you know if your creatives are okay or they need improvement? What is the process behind that?
So, as we said, like a lot of people just launch some campaigns with what they have as creatives, which is still fine, testing the waters. But there are quite a few factors that might point you to that you need something specific to be done and to improve your creatives. Basically, first of all, because this is the experience inside the platform, first of all, click-through rate is a very good indicator. So if you are having lower click-through rates than the industry averages or with any other channels that you're running, you see that your new channel, for example, is performing much lower than usual. This would be a good indicator. Also, engagement in terms of any commenting, sharing, etc. with that. This also might point you that it's not standing out well enough to people to be grabbing their attention, to make them stop scrolling, to interact with it in any way. Your cost per result also can be very expensive because of that. So this is the factor that people usually underestimate, is that the creative stops your attention, makes them stop scroll, read what you have as a messaging, and then decide to go on your website or take any other action that you request them to do. And with this, because I mentioned engagement with that, a lot of people or specialists, digital marketing specialists, underestimate also the comments under the ads. I would say this is one of the key things. People are very vocal about what they don't like. So they will usually tell you in the ad whether they don't like your pricing, it's too expensive, or you're not like your ad is not relevant to them. This also can point you to improve your targeting, or that they don't understand your product. That also happens quite often. So please do
You
read
just have to be
your
open to listen.
comments. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. But at the end of the day, this is what is missing to people, and they're openly saying it to you for free. So you might want to listen. And final thing, maybe frequency. If you are having healthy budgets and you're spending a lot, observe your frequency. If it's starting to climb up, be mindful that you might need to refresh your creative or test a little different concept. Yeah, all of these, I would say, are pretty key.
Yeah. One point for the CTR, I remember when I was still working as a project manager here at Hop and we were working together, one of our clients, we actually tested optimizing the creatives based on the CTR. So as far as I remember, we started optimizing for videos that had, well, creatives that had higher CTR, and long term, we actually saw an increase in conversions as well. Because I know a lot of people look at CTR as a vanity metric, not really
Mhm.
relevant. And at the beginning, when you start optimizing and trying to get to higher CTR, you might not see directly more conversions or, more bottom of the funnel results. But at the same time, long term, I think that that's actually beneficial, and we've seen it in practice with clients.
Totally.
So
And
it's
yeah,
a strategy to keep in mind.
the logic totally
Yeah.
dictates it that the more people engage with your ads, the better chances there are for people to convert. So thus you have lower costs. So everybody wants that.
But it's the long game. You have to be patient and
Yeah.
iterate. Speaking of the long game, what is the best approach for planning and testing creatives? I've well, obviously, working with a lot of clients at Hop, we've experienced a lot of also challenges with planning and testing creatives. I think there are a lot of things that people don't take into account. And they're kind of two case scenarios. Either you don't produce any creatives and then you don't get any results, or you suddenly start producing a lot of creatives and then you
Yeah.
actually find yourself in a situation where you don't even know how to test them. What is the right approach? What is the testing
Mm.
strategy behind? How do you choose what to test, etc.? So, can you walk us through like a best practice example that we've identified from our own experience?
Yes. So first of all, you always start with the platform that you are going to advertise on. There are certain technicalities and specific tactics that you need to undertake. It's okay to do creatives and kind of remix them and repurpose them for different platforms, but be mindful that they always need to be customized. So if you produce a video, let's say for a social platform, you want it to be shorter with the right sizing and format and everything. For YouTube, it can be longer and a little bit more detailed. But yeah, basically start with the platform and the technicalities of the given platform. Then when you have your platform and you know what basically the wireframe of the ad and what you are going to be working on, you need to go ahead and analyze the audience targeting possibilities that you have. So if we say, let's say Facebook, for example, has a lot of interests, audience targeting options, select the ones that you want to test first, and then think about the ICP and your persona and the specific unique selling propositions that you have for this persona. So try to customize your ad towards the audience that you're going to be targeting. You can always go with the USPs or the pain points for the given persona. That's also a great strategy. I think pain points are pretty vital and people are looking for solutions all the time to things they don't like. So I would say that's both for sure. Also, I think a good way before finalizing your concepts or everything, it would be to check out the competition and what they're doing. There are multiple tools to see their ads specifically for the social platforms, like Facebook Ad Library, or even in Google, they recently released the feature of being able to check all the video and image ads of competitors. So I'll see what they're doing in terms of messaging. Do they have any specific tactic or even design wise can be colors or anything outstanding. This might also point you in a interesting direction, ideas to test. Then plan accordingly for the future. So don't start with a few creatives and then do nothing after that. Be mindful that there needs to be at least 4 to 5 creatives per month per audience. So as I said, you need to be customized. And then if you want to be testing for a couple of months, then you need to prepare maybe for 3 months in advance so that you don't struggle to produce creative at the end of the first month. For example, also be mindful of refreshes. So refreshes at least once a month are usually required for most platforms.
Two
And yeah,
questions and a
pretty
comment
much.
here probably.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is when we were saying 4 to 5 creatives here, it's important to mention that it's good to test one thing at a time. So don't change, let's say, the colors, the concept, the key message, and everything else at once, because then you're not going to be able to actually identify what is the change that drove better results. Then I wanted to ask you for the creative refresh. You're mentioning at least once a month. What are the indicators that a creative needs to be changed? Let's say on Meta, is it the CTR or what do you usually look at?
Yeah, I think some of the metrics we already pointed to, but specifically you can check out how your like reach and audience penetration is going. So if you have already reached a high percentage of your audience, most probably the frequency is gonna quickly climb up very soon. So be mindful that you need to be refreshing your messaging, your creative, so that you can get better results and not spam the same people with the same basically all the time. Click-through rates might start to climb down, and also your cost per result would start to climb up. This is usually the best indicator that there's creative fatigue happening.
Would you recommend testing the same batch of creatives for different audiences, or is the overlap between audiences that it's not really worth testing the same concepts in different batches?
I would specifically say for Meta, there's quite big audience overlap, so it might be worth testing different creatives for different audiences to see how they would work. Obviously, I would not be recommending if you have very unique niche targeting to be testing messaging that wouldn't fit your audience that you're going after. But there's like we've seen multiple cases where ads that you don't think are for a given audience work like amazingly well, even messaging. So you actually never know what the platform is doing. And I think that's why platforms currently are pushing so much into the AI direction and just being not giving specialists so much control so that they can mix and match how they like and just experiment inside the platform more and more with the creatives and the messaging.
Yeah. One thing which I see a lot of companies do as a mistake is that they're kind of afraid to test new concepts. Obviously, they like you can check your competitors, you can go for the safe options of, testing different colors and message and obviously different offers. But sometimes out of the box thinking is actually what drives the most results. So I do feel like people need to be a bit more playful with what they experiment with. And yeah, even if it's on a smaller scale with a smaller audience, sometimes, as you mentioned, the most weird thing actually work the best. Um,
Yep. And I
I
think
know
it's
these.
proven actually that the craziest concepts usually work the best.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen these, they're all over Instagram. There's a company, I don't remember the name of the company, but basically it's a white square image, and it's written with kind of like handwritten, and it says, "Our designer is on vacation, so we did this ad without him. Like, reach out for this pricing on whatever." It's a SaaS business. I don't remember which
Yep.
one, but it's an app, and it actually works incredibly effectively because among the chaos of everything else, which is well curated on Instagram, this random ad just
Yeah.
makes you laugh, and then obviously like it does capture the attention. So definitely the
And
recommendation is to go a bit wild with creative.
yes, absolutely. And I also want to mention we've had such experiments with a couple of brands that we worked with. And if you remember, we used to also quote like famous songs also and just craft them a little bit towards the messaging and the product. So this is always something that nobody's expecting. And if you can make it smart and playful and catchy, it might work wonders actually. So yep, definitely recommended to go just even to be goofy about it. I think that would be
Yeah.
the best way to go.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about it, I mean, the amount of people that actually stop and look at your ad is not that big as a percentage of the total people on
Absolutely.
social media. So you can be playful and, risk it a bit with an ad. And obviously, as you mentioned previously, just look at the comments. If anything backfires, stop it quickly and go back to your safe options, but do experiment a bit more. Are there any pitfalls to people that should be careful about when it comes to creatives for paid media?
Well, I think we mentioned a couple of them, but I would like still to repeat a few of the biggest ones. So, first of all, the not planning well in advance parts. I think this is the biggest one. So, usually, if you're testing specifically social media ads, you need to be prepared to test at least a couple of months because there's a lot of things to be testing from audiences to concepts to messaging to colors to ad types. Ad types are also very crucial. We didn't talk a lot about this, but videos versus images versus carousel ads, for example. So be prepared to produce enough creatives for these couple of months in advance or plan carefully so that you don't end up with not having enough creatives or having too many creatives all at once and not being able to test them in the right time. Again, be mindful of the creative fatigue. This is also kind of related to this. It happens quite often, and especially if you haven't stabilized your account or you're not getting great results. Obviously, you need to experiment more frequently than brands that are already established. Don't test the same approach over and over again, especially if you have small budgets. People just test one audience with three creatives and say nothing is working, stopping the ads and giving up. No, that's not the way. Give the algorithm some time. They don't like, if especially if you launch a new channel, the algorithm doesn't have any background and historic information, so you need to give it at least a couple of weeks. Be prepared again, budget wise, creative and concept wise, and have enough ideas for testing at least for a couple of months. And yeah, don't end test too soon. I think this is because we touched upon data a little bit. So at least a couple of weeks of testing. And if you see, for example, you're optimizing for leads or purchases and you're not getting enough leads, this means that you won't be able to test anything basically. So it would be great to maybe go a step back and optimize for add to carts, for example, or I don't know, email form submissions before the submission of a lead. If you have different steps in the form, just go a step back in the journey and optimize for this so that the algorithm can get more data and optimize better. This is also something a lot of people I would say, are not doing. And in terms of the creative itself, I would say don't stuff the creative. That's a very frequent mistake. To input pricing, product description, product name, logo, some additional information, some design elements, and it becomes like a essay or something of the sort, like so
The
many elements
designer
that
favorite comment, can you make the logo bigger? And that's all and then the
absolutely.
product manager comes and says, oh, it's important to have the pricing as well and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Try to make it slick, clean, modern, and always to have a clear message. I would say this is the most important thing. Obviously, to brand it, but also to have a clear message what you are offering, what you're expecting people to do as well. So this is the turning point of everything. And yeah, and the repurposing. This also is a common pitfall to just take a video like one video that you produce, you don't resize it or repurpose it for the platform, and you just launch it everywhere with the same sizing and length, for example, and it's a recipe for disaster, always,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, definitely. Especially I think if you're trying to launch something on YouTube and then on Facebook, for example, a lot of people actually do watch YouTube also from their computer, and they might be more prone to watching longer videos. At least that's what we've seen for some clients. And then on Facebook, anything more than 15 seconds is usually completely dead. So definitely repurposing is important. One thing we didn't touch upon is, do you think the visual or the copy is driving the results, and which one should be tested first?
Yes. So I think we briefly mentioned that the creative, especially in the social platforms, is the leading element of that. And obviously, it's a combination of both. So the creative and the copy should be speaking well to each other and complementing each other. So basically, that's also another pitfall, not to be repeating the same thing in the creative and in the ad copy. If you have an offer, great, state it in the creative, for example, but then if you want to describe the features of the offer or some additional information, put it in that copy. Don't stuff the creative, as we mentioned. So yeah, first the creative, when people scroll, this is what takes up most of their screen. So that's why we mentioned sizing. Try to go with the recommended sizing. For example, vertical for social platforms is the way to go to occupy the biggest part of the screen. And what's inside of the image or the video is what stops the attention. So first, people would read this messaging. After that, their eyesight will go under for the headline. And after that, they'll go for the primary text that's above the longer description, basically. So this is the order, the usual order. Obviously, there are tips and tricks how to catch attention in each of these elements. For example, by adding emojis, but yeah, always try to go with the creative first, especially. That's it.
Yeah, another good one is adding emergency in the description as well. At least from our experience, adding this sense of urgency, especially
Mhm.
now with Black Friday coming up, I think
Oh,
that would
yes.
be quite crucial for for companies to optimize their ads so they can actually catch the attention, because there will be a lot of them, and yeah,
Yeah,
it will be needed.
capitalization as well. Maybe can be used. So yeah, there's a lot of tricks, and people even now, yeah, during the whole of November and beginning of December for Cyber Monday, they'll be on the lookout for promotions, and that's actually another pitfall in this period. If you don't have anything to offer, like promotion or something of the sort, be mindful for bad results because. Yeah, people are just very mean during this period. So, creatives need to be extra special during this time.
Yeah, better use the time to plan ahead for 2024 and your 6 months planning for creatives.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Is there anything else that we've missed, Maggie, or have we covered the basics? What do you think?
Well, I think I'm not sure we talked a lot about the actual messaging. I just wanted to add here that a lot of people, when they're using, because when you're doing a video, obviously you're telling a story. So I feel it's a much easier way to convey a certain message via a video. But a lot of people sometimes fall into the trap of creating a static image or a carousel and not conveying a clear enough message. They're just making it a branded creative, putting the name of the product and expecting people to know what this ad is about, basically, which is not the right angle. As we said, try to be very clear with your offering and your product, your features, or whether you're solving a pain point or you have some unique selling proposition that you want to put out there for people to know about. Be very clear in the static creatives what it is about, especially if you're using carousels. Then this gives you the opportunity to tell a whole different story on every piece of every card. So yeah, like messaging is very, very important. So it's not just the design elements of the creative, but the actual content of the creative. And as we said, be bold, use lots of colors and contrasts, even if a lot of like a tip and a trick might be to recommend the red color. Not a lot of brands are using it. So don't be afraid, even if it's not your branded color, sometimes you can use it as a background color. It might still serve a great job of catching the attention and getting some great performance there. So yeah, be bold with the messaging, with the colors, with everything.
Experiment.
Yes, test, always.
Awesome. That's the motto of every performance marketing agency slash expert. I think at the end of the day, it's all about testing, and there are a lot of great ideas. But before they're tested, you never know what will work for the specific brand. You can only guess.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we're right on time this time. Thanks for everyone in the audience who listened. I wish you all a wonderful day slash evening, whatever you are. Maggie, thank you for joining me for this live. We'll share the link afterwards on LinkedIn. And yeah, have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.